And for the last talk in this session, we're going to hear from Karen Jeffe, who is also at Consumer Reports. She's going to talk about how we're adapting and looking forward from here.
Hi. So yeah, I'm so excited to be sharing this. As Debbie mentioned, we started this endeavor 2 years ago, January of 2020, this American Experiences Survey, and we had no idea what a pivotal moment was about to come and how our worlds would change forever. So I'm here to speak a little bit about where we're at now, how far we've come, and a little warning about the future. So today we're at a place where 86% of American adults say that they or a loved one has had COVID-19. A third of American adults have had it themselves, and 6% of American adults have had a severe case. 51% of Americans have had or know someone who has had a mild case, and 35% have had or know someone who's had a severe case. And all this is to say is that this has touched people very personally, and it has touched almost everyone. So what we aimed to do was to find out, how are people feeling today, knowing that everybody has been touched by this. So in March of 2021, at around the 1 year mark, and then again last month at about the 2 year mark, we asked people a series of questions about how they're feeling, and we asked them to tell us to what extent it described their feelings. So what we found was that, over a quarter of people are burned out. It's been a rough couple of years. But 39% of people say that they've really taken away some life lessons that will stick with them. And not surprisingly, over half of adults, they miss the way their life was before the pandemic. But not everyone has felt it the same way. What's really interesting is that older adults, those 60 and over, were the least likely to tell us that they're emotionally exhausted, drained, or burned out. On the other hand, white Americans, American adults, were less likely to say that they learned life lessons than any other group. And Black Americans were the most likely to say that they've learned life lessons that will stick with them. It's important to take a moment, though, to pause and remind ourselves, and I know the previous presenters have done so as well, where we were at. In March of 2020, we first started seeing people avoiding shaking hands, going out in public places. By April, those numbers had skyrocketed. And I was just speaking last night with my sons, who are saying, I get emotional thinking, like they know exactly where they were when their school shut down, et cetera. So it really was a really pivotal moment in all of our lives. But today, we're back at it. As you can see, 78% of people are eating indoors again. They're going to public spaces like malls. They're going to get their hair done and nails, and even going to the gym. I find it interesting that fewer people that went to the gym before have returned than any of these other activities, but not surprising for me. The interesting part of this slide, though, is the lime green part, which shows that though people are back, they're still not fully comfortable being back. So they're already doing the activity, but they're somewhat uncomfortable doing so. And this is really just shows how, though we are all trying to get to this new normal, it's not as easy for everybody. And so along these lines, we asked people if they think it's time in the pandemic that it's okay to relax their precautions. Again, we asked this at the 1 year mark and then again last month. And though there has been tremendous progress, in last March, we found 21% of people said that it was okay. Last month, 35% said, but that still does leave a very large portion of the population who are not fully ready yet. We found that white adults are more likely than Black and Hispanic and English-speaking Asian adults to say this. Statement mostly or completely describes them. So again, everyone is experiencing it a little bit differently. And then there's this next question about, is COVID the new flu? We asked this question in order to try to gauge this new sense of it becoming an endemic. Are people ready to move on? And what we found was, as of last month, about almost 40% of people already see it this way. However, again, those similar racial differences were apparent here as well, where we found that more white people than any other racial or ethnic group were ready and felt this way. And also people who label themselves as politically independent were significantly more likely to say that they already think of it this way. But still, 20% of Americans do feel that they're getting ready to start to view this as an endemic. But there's a cautionary tale in this story, which is the tale that I will end on. And it's this slide. The scientific evidence overwhelmingly says that if you're vaccinated, you're more likely to have a mild case of COVID-19 if you were to get it. In the US, our vaccination rates are much lower than other Western nations, which leaves us in a bit of a conundrum, because those who feel that COVID-19 is like any other illness, they happen to be the one overwhelmingly more likely to be unvaccinated. And those are the people who are actually at the greatest risk of severe illness. So it's just a bit of a cautionary tale that though there is so much hope, the future is uncertain. Not surprising for anyone, but anyway, thank you so much for your time. And it's been super exciting to see the whole team at Consumer Reports presenting their results.
Thank you, Karen. And thank you to all the panelists in the session. It is great to see the work that you've been doing on collecting data about COVID-19. And I like how you broke it down into the different talks.